Hey y'all, this is Taylor from Emamo. Today we talk with Steffi Karp, the founder of Limmud Boston. We'll explore how they operate their event using the opposite of a hierarchy, how they plan their programming with good old sticky notes, and how they inspire attendees to continue their learning after the event's over. Welcome to the Emamo Show.
Hello.
Hey Steffi.
Hi Taylor, how are you?
Really good. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. I'm in Denver. It's beautiful. Have you been?
I have. It's been a year or two, I think.
And tell me what you're doing these days. So how does this work?
Events are all about bringing people together and building community. How can we build that community and share those things with other event organizers? I've had a lot of those conversations with like customer calls directly, but I had never really thought of sharing that with the community at large. Hopefully, some of the lessons that you've gone through for the past 10 years can help other people.
Well, that's great because, as you know, I've helped a lot of the other Limmuds find ways of getting themselves on the map. And last year, I was invited to speak to 4 or 5 different groups that were putting on conferences in the Jewish community of Greater Boston that wanted to base them on the whole Limmud concept, the idea of bringing people together, having multiple choices at the same time. And for all of them, I mentioned scheduling software, but also ways. One of the very cool things about Limmud, being one of the 90 Limmuds in the world, and when I first spoke to you, it was like 50 of us.
Yeah.
But there are now, not only are there 24 in North America, but we now have an entity called Limmud North America. And all along, I've looked at this as something that others could replicate.
That's awesome.
In fact, as you know, I am not going to be doing day-to-day operations after this year, but I'm doing a lot of training on it. And I really believe that the lower hierarchy of our festival is a way of making the world a better place.
That's awesome.
We don't have any titles. Yeah. So, people might be doctor, rabbi, cantor, I don't know, heavenly body, whatever. But everybody's on a first name basis.
Wow.
And everyone is considered a volunticipant in that everybody pays to attend, or their organization pays for them to attend, but everyone is asked to participate as if they partially own the event. So if something spills, for example, it's not my job to go run and find a mop and a pail, but I will be happy to tell you where to find said objects so that you can clean up whatever you spilled.
Now, did you have that perspective from day one, from year one? Like, when did that?
I did, because this is a Limmud. Limmud means study in Hebrew. And the Limmud values and principles, and if you go onto our website, limmudboston.org, and you go into past conferences, you'll see our program book. And page 2 of our program book every year has the international Limmud values and principles. The interesting thing was teaching these values and principles to our community, because most communities are used to having a festival done for them. Right? If your group, I don't know whether it's Beer Lovers or Butterfly Collectors International, put on a festival, you'd have an in crowd and an out crowd. The in crowd working really hard and others paying to attend. But with Limmud, it's all about bringing everyone together and everyone feeling some ownership. And what's really fun this year, because I am training the new teams that are taking over, but at the end of the day, we always say, it's a cleanup party. Come on and join us. We don't even have to get specific people out there, because now there are just people who know at the end of the day to help take down the signs and bring them down. And they get their friends to do it. And we leave the building in as nice a way as we found it.
That's huge. Yeah. Awesome. Let's take a step back and just to give some context for people that obviously aren't as familiar with your event. So like, describe your event quickly to somebody who's like never attended.
Okay, so the Standing on One Foot description, it's a festival of Jewish culture and lifelong learning, and it is the kind of festival where everyone is a learner and anyone may offer to present a session. And then the program team chooses from all the sessions that were proposed.
Okay.
And even the people who present pay to attend because they might be presenting for an hour, but somebody else might be passing out program books for an hour, and everybody's time is worth the same amount.
Wow. That is a beautiful philosophy. Like, you don't come across that often in events. Like you said, what did you call it? The lowerarchy?
Lowerarchy. We're a grand lowerarchy.
So what's the goal of your event? How do you know if it was successful?
So the goal of the event is to expose as many people to Jewish culture. And it's not a religious conference, it's a cultural conference, to Jewish culture and lifelong learning. We hope that it will enrich the community in many ways. There are some scholars. We have, in the greater Boston area, we have a college that has a rabbinical school in it, people learning to be rabbis. And we have Harvard and Brandeis and you name the university. A lot of them are based in Boston. Yep. And sometimes somebody has a new initiative or something new that they want to explore. So we're a real showcase of the Jewish community of Greater Boston or of New England. And somebody who started an organization about ways to speak about Israel, for example, because you can imagine it's a passionate topic. When he started this organization, he proposed a session that would appeal to a lot of people, and that helped him after the festival to get students who would follow along and learn more afterwards. In the first year, we had just had all these cool people who just showed up at my doorstep and said, I heard you're starting a festival. I'd like to be part of this. And somebody said they had spoken to Art Green, who at the time was the head of the rabbinical school of that college, of Hebrew College. And he said, I don't do Limmuds because they're one-off. Well, I thought about that, and that's when I created the concept of an encore. And I called him, and he answered his phone, and I said, I heard what you had to say. I heard that you say it's a one-off, but what if we make it not a one-off? What if for every session, we ask, what can a student in your session do to learn more about your topic? And I said, we can call it Encore, which a lot of people know. We could call it Ode Palm, which is the same thing, but in Hebrew. Said most people don't know what Ode Palm means. We could call it Additional Information. I'm not sure what we'll call it yet, but what if we do that? And he said, in that case, I will present. And he presented for 2 years.
That's such an interesting concept, right? Like a core part of your event is like making sure that next step is clear.
That's right. It's not the only next step, but it means that if you're presenting and you have a blog, you can put that blog as your encore. If you've written a book lately, then put that book down so that we know, where can I find your book? What is that information? And if you're talking about climate change, well, if we're planning a climate festival in a few months, we'll put it in.
How do speakers feel about that, the encore concept? Are they surprised? Are they
really like it. Some people don't know what to do with it and they leave that blank.
Right.
But they really like that because they like the idea that they are going to get more out of presenting than just standing up in front of a group.
And is the encore part like always a part of the end of the presentation in real life, or is this just an online component that they can find themselves? Like, how do you communicate that encore part?
It's in our program book, and we do have a paper printed program book, which a lot of people keep for reference, because we get a lot of educators, and when they're looking for speakers for their congregations or for their classrooms or for their universities, It's nice to be able to look back and say, who did I learn that thing from?
Mm-hmm.
Or people hold on to it, and I've heard that a lot of people who are looking for volunteer opportunities have gone back into the Limmud Boston program book in order to find out, and like, what was that organization again? Oh, good, I want to volunteer there. So it sort of comes around full circle. So the presenters really like that encore concept once they realize what it's for.
Right. That's really, really creative and just so smart. I love that idea. And that, really any event should be applying that, I think, both for the speaker's benefit and the attendees' benefit.
I absolutely agree. I mean, here I am at my husband's legal conference, and I know that they want people to follow up on what they're learning.
Right. Right. The professional development conference. But again, they don't always make that clear how to continue that.
And because we're not from one organization or another, we've become a showcase of the entire community. There will be over 80 sessions at this year's Limmud Boston. So we're all in favor of all the encores. And if something that somebody says interests you, go in that direction. If something else, go in that direction. Just next year on November 15th, I hope you'll come back to Limmud Boston.
Right.
That's
wonderful.
I also call it our recharge your Jewish batteries.
Recharge your Jewish batteries. I love that. You come out of the festival just feeling like just filled up with either.
I'm inspired, and what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I found that people do take it that way, that they will. We have people who never walk into synagogues and always walk into synagogues. We have people who are very involved in the Jewish community and people who are not Jewish and just decided they wanted to learn something from somebody because the sessions are just interesting and informative and creative. We go for the creative, the offbeat sometimes. And we have people from all walks of life who come.
So walk me through that. Let's dive a little bit into like the logistical stuff of that. Let's start with like the sessions and the talks, so like.
Okay, well, wait a minute. If you want to talk about logistics, if you want to talk about technology and logistics, I have to go back to Salesforce, which is something we talked about once before.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So I was the Salesforce admin for a for-profit company, and I knew that they give away 10 free users for life for a nonprofit. So Salesforce is a really great organizational tool. It's free, but it's free like a puppy. And I had that expertise that it wasn't a huge learning experience, but I've been trying to make it possible for other Limmuds to, take advantage of this.
So you mastered that tool at your work life, and then you brought it over to the event
And in
planning.
the first few years, I was keeping that other job and doing Limmud on the side. It was crazy. So I used that free instance of Salesforce for several things. A, to keep track of all the names and emails of all the people who kept saying, oh, you're starting this thing? I want to be in. I want to be on your mailing list. Because Salesforce works so well with others, with other technologies, we got free vertical response, which is an email program like MailChimp.
Right.
There was no MailChimp in those days. And if you do it through the Salesforce app and to vertical response, you get 10,000 free emails a month. So especially in the beginning, that was a whole lot of mail.
Right. So you have your 10 users in Salesforce for free. You have the email platform for free. This is awesome. Right. As a nonprofit, you're like, trying to put these pieces together and make do. That's amazing.
Right. And then I use social media, and I learned about something called Hootsuite. It's how you manage your social media. So we have 80 sessions. So we will post, someone's picture and a little thing about their upcoming program and say, register today. And we can do that, like starting right now, going for the next 5 weeks. It's the perfect connection. And then because you can schedule it, we can make sure we're not scheduling it on a day that we shouldn't put anything out, like on the Jewish Sabbath, because some of the people who attend Limmud Boston would not want us to do. We don't do anything on Jewish holidays.
Right. That makes sense. One, I think that's really brilliant that like you're taking these talks and you're turning them into promotional content, showing like, here's the content, here's the speakers that are going to be at my event. Also,
now register.
Right. But that's a lot more interesting. At least you're kind of, think about it as like leveling up, right? The level one is just tweeting every day saying, hey, buy tickets, hey, buy tickets. But I think that it's much more, you're giving value, showing the value at your event by showing off like, this is the content, this is what you could learn.
That's right. This is also giving the presenter more opportunity to be seen.
Do you share out every single one of those talks?
We share out many of them. I'm not sure there are any that we wouldn't. It's sort of in a rotation, but if there are certain ones that we think are going to be really a big draw, we'll push that a little bit more.
Like who creates that image and how do you do all that?
So everybody sends us their photographs and we store it on Sked. We take it from there, and also because I'm calling it now, I told the woman who's learning the office things from me, I said, this is the Steffi Karp download, because from Sked now you can download the name of the session and the short link. So it goes right into them. And that was my request. So
I love that. And Sked, for people that don't know, is a scheduling platform, right? So you take the photos, the speaker photos from that platform, and you export that.
And we shorten the description to just 140 characters or whatever they're doing these days on Twitter and Facebook. I just want to go back to the Salesforce thing. So it was not only email, but I made web to lead forms from Salesforce.
Okay.
And that's right in Salesforce. That's free, so that when you want to propose a session, let's say you want to talk about conference management and Jewish values, right? So you make something up and you enter everything into our form. It comes into us as a lead, and our program team is able to review that with all the other programs that come in. And if there are 3 of them that came in on the same topic, we might ask the 3 of you to, if we can put you together as a panel. Because what we are always trying to do is include as many people as possible.
Okay, so you and your team are managing this in Salesforce, like all of those submissions are coming into
Salesforce, right? So they're actually dealing with it mostly in paper, but they know where the system is. But that's the only format. Like if you don't enter it, you can't say, hey, I'd like to propose a session on what I'm doing and a film. Is that okay? I always say, fill out that form, because if we don't have apples to apples, it's impossible for the program team to decide. And it's also a great way for a program to be lost.
Yep. So when you just said that part of your team does it with paper, though, like are you printing out those?
So in other words, we're not asking them all to learn how to use Salesforce, but as long as it's proposed that way, then when they meet, they can look at a sheet that comes straight from Salesforce that says title, session title, session description, session, bio, additional panelists and their bios. Do you need a projector? Is this a noisy session? So we know to put you in a quieter room. Some of those basic things, and Encore. All those questions are right there, and your name and address and any organizations you're affiliated with. So we know if we have, 14 people from, let's say, the Jewish Alliance on Law and Social Action, then we might say, any chance that 3 of you can work together and some of you will wait till next year?
Yeah.
So that we're able to feel as inclusive as possible, but you're not crowding out everybody else who wants to present.
It's like a fact of life, right? Like events have event apps and the online schedule, and they still have the print guides. And like, I think that there's the right use case for both, and they often both exist or coexist in an event. So it's really interesting that you have everybody submit those talks into Salesforce. That's like the kind of, main record. They all have to go through that.
That's our single file drawer.
Right. And then you print those out, and like, do you bring those printouts to a room where you discuss this with others and figure that out, or how does that?
Yes. So
work?
then before this happened on September 22nd this year, and the festival is November 17th. So people had been looking at an Excel sheet that gave them some of that information. But then when they're all together, they get a packet of all the sessions. And that way, because it really is hard to do it all on computer.
So who's they? Yeah, walk me through that real quick. So
we're really as paperless as possible. We have teams of volunteers, and there are probably 10 or 12 people who go to the slotting day, where we actually take all the sessions, we have them on stickers, and the stickers go on to Post-it notes. And the Post-it notes are separated by topic, by color.
This is so interesting.
So all the spirituality might be one color, and all the Israel might be blue, and the Jewish Climate Action Network, anybody who's talking anything about climate and health might be green, etc. And we have these giant foam core boards that we've used since the very first year that are separated out by the time period and all the classrooms in the building that we use, and we put the sessions up. And that way we can look and say, oh, look, everything at 2:00 is green. That doesn't work.
And so, right.
So looking at those, we have these giant boards, and then we can move them around. That's all done practically in one day. Once that's done, and once several of our regulars, including me, come in and take a look at them and read through and say, no, you might not want these two at the same time, or these are so close, maybe they could become a panel instead of being two separate sessions. Then we put the sessions back into Salesforce, the classroom and the time and the fact that the session has been accepted and not either withdrawn or actually not accepted. Sometimes that happens. So, because we get more than 100 proposals for 80 sessions. Then, once it's all in Salesforce, and what comes out of Salesforce are reports that can go into Excel, right? And we have one report that is in exactly the order that is necessary to go into the SCED upload.
That's a custom report you all built?
I built that, and we've been using it. We have it in that order so that we know, but once we put it into Salesforce, we can put it into any shape we want. But when it comes to that day of actually uploading, that's the order in which things go.
Well, okay, one thing you mentioned in passing, you're like, usually it takes one day. Like, what are the years or times where it spilled over to multiple days?
Okay, so it takes one day, and then there are a few more days of edits. So, as you know, I'm not going to be doing the day-to-day, and I wasn't even in town that day, and they were all so excited, like, oh, we can do this.
Right.
Right? However, it is a huge job, and there are so many different topics to pay attention to that it's hard. Yeah. So everything from, as I mentioned, the different areas that you want to make sure so that each time period has something for everybody. And whether something's noisy, whether it's conflicting with another topic that's very close or similar. And so, and also there are sessions that have to be accepted because there are foundations that are helping to bring people in and are paying for the travel expenses of those presenters. So we know that those people have to be in, but if they have to do 2 to 3 sessions, they have to be put on the board first.
Now, how do you, I understand you started this, all these rules, it's in your head, you're balancing all this knowledge. Like, how do you even begin to teach that to everybody else or write all of these kind of intuitive rules out for somebody else?
Well, there were so many conversations around my dining room table in 2008 when I started talking about this. And everybody is supposed to familiarize themselves with the concept of the Limmud International, which is based in England, and that's a 1 week long Jewish conference over Christmas week every year.
Okay.
They get 3,000 people from all over the world.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so we use those values. When in doubt, we just go back to that page 2 of our program book and look at the Limmud values. And if something seems like it's all about just a person and it doesn't seem like something that's general and great for the whole community, go back to the values and say, oh, I don't think that's exactly what it's about. So everybody's learned. It's really nice because then you're not saying, oh, Steffi said we can't do it because she doesn't want it that way. Instead, we're saying, according to the values of the organization that we're trying to work with, they wouldn't do that one. They would do it in a different way. So, one more example of how some of these work is one year we had 3 people who wanted to talk about death and dying values and how you dealt with. There was a man who wrote about his wife who died early, submitted a session. A woman who wrote about her husband who had died as she was young, and how Jewish rituals of going to synagogue after the year helped her get through that. And another woman wrote about losing her mother, and that third person is a rabbi. So I contacted the rabbi. This is several years ago. I contacted the rabbi, asked her if she would consider becoming a moderator for a panel that involved the other 2 people. And they had a solid group of people in their room, of people who were very respectful and were able to hear the stories. And it wasn't just one person telling his story or telling her story. And by having one leader, it meant they could talk about something else. It wasn't just a spouse.
Different perspectives.
But they were talking about a larger topic.
It's so fortunate for you all to have those values so clearly codified, right? Yeah, it's really powerful. It really, solves that conflict, keeps the focus on, the mission.
But it was a learning experience for me to be able to say, oh, it's not about me making this decision. It's about, the values say this wouldn't be as powerful as doing it that way. It's also meant that I have been in group sessions where I didn't even think about the values and principles, but other people who had learned them over the years had brought up a topic and said, I think that we need to remember that this is part of the values. And it's like, oh, yeah, wow, thank you.
I love that. That's really wonderful. And also just helps specifically Limmud Boston, continue without you and, in a very real and consistent way.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is just so exciting because that's when you've created something that's going to live.
Awesome. Steffi, this was fantastic. I learned so much. It was great. Congratulations on 10 years. Holy moly. That's just wonderful.
All right. Take good care, Taylor. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in this week. We want to hear from you. What's an event that's inspired you? And how did you use that motivation to continue learning after it was over? Let us know by tweeting us at Emamo. You can also follow us on Instagram at hello_Emamo or visit us at emamo.com. That's EMAMO.com. See you next time.